game begin. My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
I am your father.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
Yes. And you're not sure about this, are you?
You're gonna die, clown!
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Sam? The most you ever lost on a coin toss. Call it.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby.
Bring out today!
This is a tasty burger.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome to the fucking show.
Hello, welcome back to See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I'm Russell.
And I'm Ben.
And we're back. Ben, we're just going to kick right into it. I saw you this week.
What's that?
I saw you in real life this week.
We did. We met up.
Yeah.
We saw face to face.
I know. Oh, for those of you who are new or don't know, Ben and I don't record this in the same room. Ben and I don't live in the same state, but we know each other from college. I came back to my college to visit. I saw my boy Ben. It was a good time. We got Indian food.
We had a very lovely dinner.
Yeah,
I got to meet your lovely girlfriend. She was awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, she's cool. I think she listens. Hello. Yeah, it was a good time. You wore a plaid shirt. I don't remember what I did. I thought I lost my sunglasses. It was bad. I didn't. And that was the recap. So, Ben, this weekend, what also happened? Big news, movie, something in Chicago.
Well, there was some lowly film franchise called like Star Battles, Space Battles or something. They had their festival in Chicago. I don't think much people care about that, though.
No, it didn't get any hype or news coverage at all. Went
Right.
really under the radar.
Yes. But for anybody that's like, what are they talking about that doesn't get sarcasm? Yeah, Star Wars Festival or Fest, whatever they want to call it, was this weekend in Chicago.
Yeah.
We got some big time news. Kind of expected on all fronts, though.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. So it took place at McCormick Place in Chicago. I know that because I'm from Chicago. I live in Chicago. And a trillion people showed up, which is pretty expected from a Star Wars celebration. And yeah, so we got a bunch of news. We're just going to kick right into it because we have a bigger piece of news, in my opinion, this week, besides any of this. So we got a trailer for the new Star Wars video game, which looks good. It's developed by the same people who did Titanfall, which by all accounts is a pretty good game. I've never played it, but everyone I know who has played it says it's amazing. It's a single-player game, no in-game purchases, and no multiplayer to speak of. Both things I'm very happy about because I don't have any friends, and I don't have any money. So, those things appeal to me. And then we got a behind-the-scenes look at the new show, The Mandalorian, that's being spearheaded by, of course, Disney and Lucasfilm, but also Jon Favreau, like Taika Waititi, and a few other big names. So I think that that property's in good hands, and it's more for adults. It's not for kids. I don't know if it's going to be rated R, but it is not geared towards children.
Right. I would highly doubt that. Yeah, it's going to get any sort of like TVMA rating because it's still a Star Wars property, and it's going to be streamed exclusively on Disney's new streaming platform whenever that comes out, Disney Plus. And I don't know if they're going to have any mature rated or R-rated content on that. I don't think they've stated yet. Probably the most would be like PG-13. I mean, now that they do have
everything,
including 20th Century Fox, that's going to be the new streaming home for The Simpsons as well. So that's probably going to be like, The Simpsons, maybe a little bit edgier, is probably going to be like the limit for their adult content.
Yeah, I think it launches late in the fall or early winter, so like October, November, December. And if you buy it early or subscribe early-ish for a 1-year plan. It's only $70. So it is a pretty good price. I know I'll be doing it at least for a year to test it out. Because it is only $70. It's not that expensive as far as streaming services go. And I think that you're right. They're not going to have any adult stuff on there yet. But I feel like over time when they see their numbers, like, oh, wow, like 65% of people are guys between the ages of 18 and 24, or 18 to 30. They're going to start putting some more rated R stuff on there. I think that's how they're going to gauge it by the audience. So if it's only kids, they wouldn't want to put mature stuff. If it's only adults, they're not going to put as much kid stuff, vice versa. Or they might do like Netflix Kids and then Netflix Adults. I think that's the direction they're going in. And I have a suspicion that the only reason they bought 20th Century Fox is because of the streaming service. That's all they wanted it for, to put shit on there. They just wanted fillers. I think that's why. Because they have said, or Bob Iger has said, they're not touching any of those properties. Like, they're not going to put their fingers in there. It's like, yeah, we technically are their higher-ups, but they have no desire to get involved in their creative processes, which tells me they only want it for the streaming service.
That's interesting, and it's interesting to kind of wonder whether they'll stay with that approach.
Yes.
Because, you know, if they figure out a way to monetize something more so than it already more so than the money that it already brings in, my guess is they will go down that path. But, you know, and that's a nice like publicity thing to kind of, or publicity blurb to put out, like, oh yeah, we're not going to touch, you know, Fox's properties, you know, we're not going to have any creative input there, but we'll see if that sticks.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that 100%. I really do agree with what you're saying because, yeah, it's very good publicity to say that, but you never know what's really happening behind the scenes. You really don't. But yeah, we'll just see what happens, and Disney's going to rule everything. So I guess eventually, hey Disney, sponsor us. If you don't sponsor us now, you'll own us later. So all hail our Disney overlords. So next we have the new Star Wars trailer. What do you think?
For a teaser, it's definitely interesting. It looks good so far. Yeah, we got at the same time the name drop for episode 9 as well as the trailer. It's The Rise of Skywalker, which I think that title's a bit clunky.
I do too.
To be honest, but I mean, like, you know, a title for one of these movies isn't going to take away from the overall experience, so it's kind of like whatever.
Yeah,
but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I love the title for The Last Jedi. I thought that was a sweet title. It was like an ominous title, where it's like, oh no, like people are going to die kind of thing. That's kind of like a Winter is Coming kind of title, where it's like, you'll see. Do you think this film is going to be organic, or do you think it's a course correction from what Rian Johnson did in the last film? Or do you think it's just the next step in the plan? Or do you think they're just like, oh shit, we pissed everyone off, we have to like undo all of it? Or do you think they're going to be like double down, so to speak?
I hope they double down. I don't want J.J. Abrams to like try and retcon or undo anything that Rian Johnson did. I thought Rian Johnson's take on the universe was unique. It subverted expectations. He did his own thing. He did what he wanted to do. I think JJ should respect that decision, and well, you know, by now the movie is pretty much almost, you know, finished. But I hope that Abrams kind of just went with what was given to him instead of trying to, you know, turn everything back to what he wanted. And what he started with The Force Awakens. So, but, you know, we'll see. Because I like the idea that Rey is basically nobody.
I love that.
Like, you know, I like that Rian Johnson steered the story away from her possibly being a Skywalker, you know, and kind of everything we've seen up to this point in this in this entire franchise. Like, oh yeah, Skywalker is the name to beat It's, the most important name of all. But no, Rian Johnson was saying, like, you don't have to be a part of this lineage or important name to be someone and make a difference. And I liked that message. I hope they don't walk that back.
Yeah, I think, and the inclusion potentially of a Palpatine in some way, whether it be like a Force kind of ghost or like a Sith ghost, might be kind of cool. It would be something interesting to see. I hope they don't lean too heavily onto it. I hope it's just like a thing they pepper in, kind of like Yoda or like Obi-Wan or something. I think that'd be super cool if they just are like, hey, this is a thing that exists in this universe, and maybe they tie it into a few other events. You're like, oh, hey, remember when this thing happened here? Yeah, this is why this happened. You're like, oh, like one of those. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I'm cautiously very optimistic, is how I'm going to put it for this.
Yeah.
Very
if
optimistic.
there's one thing that's almost guaranteed, though, it's that it's going to piss some people off while others are going to love it. It's just, that's the way it is now.
Yeah, and then final piece of news that isn't really news for this, that we don't really talk about. Samsung's new Samsung Galaxy Fold came out. It's the smartphone that actually folds open into like a tablet, and it folds closed into a normal smartphone. It got launched today, and people are loving it. So that's the thing. I know that was a totally non sequitur piece of news, but it like has been blowing up my YouTube feed the last like 14 hours, and I've watched like 7 videos on it, and it looks really cool. Too bad I'm an Apple sheep. So Ben, going off on Chosen Ones and having a name to maybe be the only reason you can save the day. What happened on Sunday night?
Sunday, we got the season premiere of the final season of Game of Thrones.
We did. Ben, before we say anything about what happened in the episode, what did you think?
I thought it was a very good setup for the rest of the season to come. I really didn't expect a whole lot of crazy action, and I really didn't expect to see any of the Battle of Winterfell right off the bat, because there's so much to... because we had a lot of reunions that we needed to kind of to get to set up some sort of emotional stakes before we get into the the high octane battles sequences that are going to come in the next I'd say probably at the end of the next episode, going into episode 3.
Yes, I very, very, very much agree. I think that this episode was the right amount of fan service. It's the fan service that we needed to have. I think, as we've talked about before, a little bit of course correction from the end of Season 7. A lot of people were upset with how Season 7 went, where there was a lot of traveling from here to there to here to there too fast. And I think this episode let it simmer a little bit. It did show that like stuff takes time, and there are things happening on opposite sides of this map. And it showed that like maybe we thought that when Jaime left King's Landing at the end of last season, he just appeared there, but it took him an episode to get here, which showed there was time. I really liked it, and I think in this season, before we talk about anything else, characters who we've traditionally thought maybe made bad decisions might make very good decisions, and characters we've thought have maybe always made very good decisions might make very, very dire bad decisions that may lead to their downfall.
Yeah, I want to say there's, in particular, this first episode is kind of leading us to think that one character in particular, or well, kind of two characters are about to have a pretty big like showdown as far as egos and how they see the future of Westeros.
Yes. And I think there will be a lot of comeuppance to have in this season, for better or worse. Some characters who deserve it, some characters who don't, but get trapped in a bad situation. And yeah, so Ben, what was this episode about? What was the story about?
Really, it's just like we touched on already. It's we're setting up the inevitable Battle of Winterfell because we know that the Army of the Dead is marching south. We know that their next major stop is at Winterfell. So the major kind of combined armies that Jon Snow and Dany have kind of set up up to this point. Mostly they did all their setting up throughout season 7, trying to convince people like, hey, we need to put aside all of our personal squabbles and political shit because none of that's going to matter if all of us are dead.
Yes.
So we really get everyone except for pretty much Cersei converging on Winterfell, and we have a whole lot of reunions. Some pretty important probably to what's going to come throughout the rest of the season, and some that are just kind of like that have been building up throughout the whole show. Mm-hmm. Good payoffs, especially. I think a lot of people really enjoyed Jon and Arya's.
Oh yeah, that got me in tears.
Reunion. Yeah, it was very sweet. Something that people have been waiting for since literally season 1.
Yes, and it was really good. This episode mirrored season 1, episode 1 in a lot of ways, especially where there's a scene where Ned Stark tells Jon Snow, "When I get back, we're going to talk about your mom." There's a line where he says that, and then he's like, "When I return, we'll do that." In this episode, we finally talk about Jon's mom, but instead of Ned Stark, it's Samwell Tarly in the crypts in front of Ned Stark and Lyanna Stark, who's Ned's sister. And we get the reveal that Jon's real name is Aegon Targaryen, the 5th of his name, I think, 4th or 5th of his name. And Aegon Targaryen, for those of you who don't know, was the person who rode Balerion the Blackdread, the giant dragon that's in the crypts of King's Landing that conquered Westeros. Like, he was the one to do it. It was Aegon Targaryen, like the most famous of all the Targaryens, kind of like Bran the Builder for the Starks. He was like the guy. And for those of you who don't know or don't have like a representation, if we're talking Harry Potter, he'd be like one of the house like that like Godric Gryffindor. He's like the guy who they look up to, and everyone's like, oh yeah, he's world famous. And Jon kind of has a little bit of a crisis about that, and he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think just by hearing this sort of revelation, there's so many things in his head that are just coming crashing into view. Like, how is he gonna? He's been trying to avoid being a leader for the past 3 or 4 seasons. Like, every time he's been put into a position, he's reluctant to take it. Mm-hmm. The head of Castle Black,
the Night's Watch. The Night's Watch?
Yeah, Night's Watch. Head of the Night's Watch, and then being declared King of the North by everyone that follows him. He's always reluctant to take it, though he does pretty much he does take that responsibility, and because he's like, well, people are relying on me. Mm-hmm. Now this is the ultimate responsibility.
Yeah,
sitting on the Iron Throne, like he doesn't know how to take this right now, and also the fact that he's been banging his aunt now that he just finds out.
And I think this will definitely boil into something really, really powerful. And I think in more ways, in more than affecting Jon and Daenerys, who's his now aunt, it's going to affect Daenerys and Sansa. Because Sansa's going to learn that Daenerys is her aunt as well. Or her second aunt. And she's going to learn a bunch of stuff, and there's going to be this family tension as well as who's a leader and who she thinks her brother is in love with. So there's this, I wouldn't call it a love triangle, I would call it a...
a familial loyalty crisis.
Yeah, a familial loyalty crisis for sure. And I think last season we didn't have a lot of the drama that Game of Thrones, the TV show, has really benefited from. But this episode was like, oh, you wanted drama? Here you go. And I think we really got a big piece of that when Daenerys and Ser Jorah Mormont talked to Samwell Tarly to congratulate him on how good of a helper he's been to Jorah. And then Daenerys is like, oh shit, I killed your father and brother. I'm sorry. And that scene was really difficult to watch because you understand both sides. You understand Daenerys. She's like, you have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Right? But you also have to realize there's people's lives that you affect by doing that. And you can see it in both of them, where he realizes what she's doing and she realizes why they're on either side of the fence, but they see each other's side as well. It's a fully circular understanding, but neither of them has to like it.
Right. And then almost immediately after Sam gets the news that his brother and father were both killed at the same time by Danny, then he's hit with the news from Bran. Bran's like, yeah, by the way, you got to put away all that emotional stuff. You need to go tell Jon right now his actual lineage.
Yeah.
So Sam went through some shit this episode.
Yeah, I think Sam, in a lot of ways, was definitely the standout character in this episode. He was really, really, really emotionally, in every single place. And I think that was really powerful because Sam is a good person. I think Sam is one of the very few characters in the show who's just all over a good person, or who tries to be good. I think even Tyrion has some not good in him, and I think we're going to see that this season. I think Tyrion may be a little more nefarious than we think.
I think Tyrion is starting to realize that his role that he played up to this point as Danny's advisor, his role is becoming less significant. Mm-hmm. I think he's realizing that, and he's going to make some moves to try and get himself back into play, into some sort of power play. Not necessarily maybe to try and take over anything, but to make sure that hey, I'm still here.
Yeah,
I'm going to be important enough for you to not just cast me aside or throw me into the mouth of one of your dragons.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, that's for sure. And the line that really stood out to me for that one was where Tyrion is talking to Sansa, and they have that exchange where it's the last time I saw you was at Joffrey's wedding, where he's like, there were some ups and downs to that day. And that was kind of a little bit of cutting that tension. But you also know why they're both saying that, because it's wow, we both made it through, but you can tell both of them made it through, but they're still there, but they're both very different people there. They've seen a lot, they've been through a lot, they've been hurt a lot up until that point. And where Sansa tells Tyrion, I used to think you were the smartest person. Now maybe not so much. Maybe the people around Tyrion are dude, maybe they're seeing the forest from the trees and he's not. And maybe it's starting to dawn on him that, have I picked the lesser or the greater of two evils, maybe? And yeah, it's really interesting. And then while all of this is happening up in the north, we'll talk about the Tormund thing at the end, and the kid on the wall. Let's go down to Cersei in King's Landing, who is still being the worst.
Yes. She's complaining about not having elephants. We finally with Cersei, we finally get to meet the Golden Company.
Yeah,
who we've been hearing so much about. They've come to King's Landing with Euron Greyjoy
and Robert Strickland.
Robert Strickland, yes, he's the head of, which is such a weird
normal name,
Western dad name,
right? I think I know someone with that name. I know. Yeah,
but anyhow, Robert Strickland and the Golden Company come to King's Landing to pledge I guess they're under contract.
Mm-hmm.
From Cersei to fight for her, and the big thing about the Golden Company is they've never broken a contract, and they're the biggest, baddest group of sellswords in all of the Seven Kingdoms. So basically, if you hire them out, they're reliable. Yeah. What their purpose is, we on the surface it's to fight in this great battle that's to come, but is that what Cersei's ultimate plan with them is?
I think what she's going to do is going to have them sit in King's Landing and wait for the people from the north to come down to the south. And it's going to be an ambush. But what I think, here's my suspicion for this. So, the Golden Company is just going to wait there with Euron Greyjoy. I think there'll be a little bit... Someone's going to turn on someone. One of those two armies are going to turn. I think the Golden Company, once they see White Walkers or maybe Ghost Viserion, I think Ghost Viserion's coming down there. Maybe they'll defeat the rest of the army, but I think Ghost Viserion's coming down there for some reason, because in the intro they showed the big crossbow thingy. They showed it in the intro, so that means there's going to be something with that big crossbow. The Black Bolt, or the Scorpion is what they call it, the Scorpion. I think once the Golden Company sees a dragon, they're going to be like, oh shit.
We might have to cancel this contract.
Yeah, and it's like they keep saying the Golden Company can never break a contract, They're saying it enough that I think they're setting up for they're about to break a contract when they see at least a dragon. Because I don't think all 3 dragons, or those 2 dragons, are making out. I think one of them's going to make it out of that battle. Maybe they'll both make it out, but they'll be very injured. But the Golden Company is going to see a dragon. And it's like no one in Westeros has ever, or even Essos, has ever seen a dragon in the flesh. And when they see one, or an undead ghost dragon, they're going to be like, sorry, Cersei, we're going to definitely side against you because we don't want to die. Or be turned into zombies. So, sorry. So that's happening down there. Theon finally grows some balls.
I knew that's what you're getting.
Yeah.
He actually had a good moment.
He really did.
Kind of redeeming moment. Yeah, he busts out Yara from being captured by Euron while Euron's getting his thing on with Cersei back on land. This is really the only moment of action we saw in the episode.
Yeah.
But it was really cool seeing Theon and his group of SEAL Team 6 or whatever come save Yara. And fun little fact: 2 of the people that were killed in that sequence that were Euron's guys were Rob McElhenney from
It's Always Sunny.
It's Always Sunny.
Really?
He was one of those guys. And I forget the second person, but it was another famous person.
Really?
Yes.
That's so cool. They had cameos.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Because It's Always Sunny and the showrunners and head writers for
Game of Thrones,
D.B. Weiss and Benioff. Weiss and Benioff, they've written an episode of It's Always Sunny before.
Really? Oh, that's so
they have
interesting.
A nice little working relationship.
I will have to go back and watch to see if I can see Rob McElhenney in it and be like, oh my god, that's him. That's awesome, actually. And yeah, so yeah, Theon has a moment. And what do you think? When they're on the ship, so Theon and Yara are leaving Euron's fleet, with probably 10 boats, and they're like, let's get the fuck out of here. So they go up to the Iron Islands, and Yara's like, the people in the north are going to need somewhere to retreat to. Whether they actually do or not, she's like, let's hold out a stronghold here, because we have an island. Yeah, a fleet can try to come up, but if we block ourselves in, we can just essentially hold them out. We're on land, we have food, they're on boats. We can just sit here and wait, as we've done forever. So that's her plan, and she's like, Theon, you're going to go help them. And then she's like, she says something about let's kill the bastards. Is she talking about the undead army? Is that what she's referring to when she says that?
I don't know yet. Because I'd say that's probably the most, the easiest explanation, or kind of the most realistic thing she was getting at. But also the word, use of the word bastard is always so literally used in this show. A bastard being someone that doesn't have legitimate father or mother.
Yeah, or is she talking about Jon?
I doubt that it'd be that, because
yeah,
and really there's no other significantly important people that are considered bastards in this show.
Yeah, and they wouldn't in theory hate Jon Snow. They would like Jon Snow because Jon brought Theon back there to help save people.
Right.
He's the
Theon
good guy.
Theon is on a bit of a redeeming tour.
Yeah.
For all the shit that he pulled way back earlier in the early seasons for double crossing the Starks.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder what she meant by that. Maybe that will come forward later. I think Theon and Yara are going to kill Theon and Yara are going to kill Euron. they're going to have a moment where they like team up together and they kill Euron.
I think Theon killing Euron would be the most justice, or the most poetically justice way for Euron to go out, and I hope that's how it happens.
Yeah. And so going back to Euron and Cersei down in King's Landing while all of this is happening, Cersei decides to sleep with Euron. Is that just a power play so she can keep him and his army around? Or what do you think that's about?
It's hard to tell. I think power play makes a lot of sense, but Cersei, up to this point, she's not known for, giving into just little desires, like just wanting to have sex with someone like that. Like that's not her character at all. Like that we've seen in the past 7 seasons. So if she's doing something like sleeping with Euron, there's a reason. She's calculating. She is one of the most calculating and clever characters on this entire show.
Yeah.
So you got to think there's a reason she's doing it. Their power play, keeping enemies close or something like that. Like she knows that maybe Euron can't fully be trusted, and she kind of knows his
where his head's at.
Yeah, where his head's at, his goals, because she knows that. I think she knows that he wants to just be king through proxy of her.
Yeah, and I have a feeling if Theon doesn't kill him, she's going to, or she's going to be the reason he gets killed. She might not be the one who takes the final blow, but I think she's going to they're going to double cross each other.
Something like that has to happen. Yeah, it's not going to be some sort of happy alliance the whole time.
No.
If it's not Theon, I would love to see Cersei order the Mountain to rip this dude's head off.
Oh, the Mountain's going to do something. I want to see my boy Hafthor Bjornsson, who plays the Mountain, destroy someone. Just
and really,
squish him.
You could really see it in the actor's eyes, when he was eyeing down Euron. You could kind of see it through his facial, you can't really see his face, but his eyes saying
You're
I
dead.
Want to fucking kill this dude.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to wait for Cersei to order me. This dude is annoying, and I just want to rip him in half.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think the inclusion of Zombie Mountain the whole time is so good. And I wonder who's going to kill Qyburn, the mad scientist Maester who hangs out with Cersei. I wonder what is going to happen to him.
I have Qyburn living in my personal death pool for this season.
You know what?
I don't see him necessarily needing to die.
You know what? He hasn't really truly done anything evil. I mean, he's not a good person, but he's not evil in the sense that Cersei is. He's kind of just serving her, and he's just sort of
he wants to do his mad scientist shit.
Yeah.
Really, that's his ultimate goal. Whether he does it through Cersei or whether he remains, he wouldn't remain under Dany or Jon if they took the throne.
Yeah.
They would, I don't know if they would have him killed or if they would just, say, get the hell out of here, you're banished from King's Landing. But, if he had the opportunity to continue his work under them,
I think he would. Yeah, he wouldn't double cross them. I think he just wants to do his thing, and he'll take the path of least resistance. But I don't see him being the kind of guy with a knife and trying to stab someone. I don't really see him as it, unless maybe we're totally wrong. But yeah, I think
he'd probably be one of the first to get the hell out of King's Landing if he saw the shit was going down and wasn't going to go well for that city.
I could see him getting on a boat to Essos, and just sneaking out the back door kind of character. Which, you know what? Frankly, I don't blame him. If he lives, I won't be what, they didn't kill Qyburn? If he dies, I'd be oh shit, he got killed. It's not going to be one of those okay. He's kind of an interesting, intriguing character, but nothing I'm sure he is a fan favorite with certain people, but yeah. And then other characters that we really got to see more of, besides the Starks who we've already seen, we got a lot with Bran. And there's a lot of Bran memes going around now where it's nobody and then Bran just looking over, which are very funny. And our mutual friend Ariana sent us a article about Bran. You want to talk about it?
Yes. So if you go back and rewatch this episode, you can see that throughout a lot of scenes happen in Winterfell, when various characters are interacting, you might see a little crow or a raven in the background, just kind of hanging around. What we came to find out through Ariana is that Bran is using these crows. He's warging into them and listening to everybody's conversations. Like, he's not just kind of like hanging around, being, his crippled self and not being able to contribute much to anything. He's actively listening to people's schemes, to them talking to each other. So he wants to know everything. As the current three-eyed raven, he knows everything. He's everywhere. Basically, he's got his reasons for being creepy and staring at people like, I know what you did, because he does know what they did.
Yeah, I think Bran is 5 steps ahead of everybody. That's why when Jaime shows up, he's not surprised. He's like, I knew you were coming here. And that's why that shot of Jaime...
has the worst look on his face. He's like, oh, fuck, man.
Because Jaime thought he was dead. And Jaime's like,
yep.
Oh, God, he's alive. That's like when you do something, and then you see them, but you're like, oh, no.
And it's another one of those nods back to the very first episode. That very first episode ended with an interaction between Jaime and Bran. Jaime pushing Bran out of the tower. And this one ends in the same... kind of way, where Jaime and Bran are the last 2 people to interact with each other, see each other, and then the episode ends. And that, oh man, when Jaime gets off his horse and sees Bran looking at him like, hey, welcome, I've been expecting you, cut to credits, I was actively like, God damn it, like, why do we end here?
Yeah, like, like that, God damn it, editing, God damn it. That scene, I love that scene. That's probably one of my favorite shots from the entire episode. And then speaking of Jaime, and we talked about Tyrion a little bit, Bronn has been essentially not ordered. I don't think he's going to do it.
Oh, I hope he doesn't. Yeah, this was a surprising one. Bronn gets a visit from Qyburn right before Bronn's about ready to have like a 5-way with a bunch of prostitutes.
Yeah.
Qyburn pretty much tells Bronn, or gives him a message from Cersei, like, hey, her 2 brothers have basically abandoned her. You're still a sellsword. Here's your new contract. And Qyburn hands Bronn the kind of like the family crossbow
that was used to kill Tywin.
Yes. So she wants both Jaime and Tyrion dead. And you can immediately see it in Bronn's reaction, like, okay, yeah, I'm a sellsword, I need money, I could do this, but do I really want to? Because him and Jaime have bonded so much over the past few seasons. Like, they're like, not BFFs, but you can tell Bronn doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, and him and Tyrion...
the same with Tyrion a few seasons back as well.
Yeah, and he saved Tyrion's life. And there's in the trailer for the season, there's a scene of Jaime like with fire around him where he says something and people think that he's saying Bronn. I think maybe it's the Russian or the Swedish version of the trailer. Someone did the dubbing and he's saying the word Bronn, but Bronn might be another word in Swedish or Russian. Or like his lips are saying something like Bronn. Maybe Bronn shows up there and maybe Bronn shoots like Tyrion, like has a moment to. People don't know what that means, but people think that's what Jaime is saying in that thing. But people have also thought maybe he's saying the word Brienne. He's either saying Bronn or Brienne.
That was part of this episode that I thought was lacking. Was I needed more Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
She was in like one scene standing behind Sansa as they were welcoming in Jon, Dany, and the rest of their army. She didn't say a darn word. She was just there staring. I was like, man, I want more Brienne.
Yeah, her and Podrick. I think they're going to have a moment when Jaime's there. In the next episode, they're going to get their moments because Jaime and Brienne and Jaime and Podrick.
Yeah. Oh, and another very, very nice, sweet little reunion was Arya and Gendry.
Yeah, that was a really good one when they were doing the forging of the obsidian or the dragon glass, where he's like, I knew you're just a rich girl, and he's like, I'm the only rich girl you know. And it's like, that's a really good line where it's like...
I think they're going to become a thing as the season goes on.
I do, too.
I hope so. Like, Arya deserves... she deserves a relationship. She doesn't need to continue on her life just being a murderer.
Yeah, she deserves happiness in this season, in the show, because she's never had even an ounce of happy. Like, her entire story has been horrible and sad and depressing in every sense of the word. And
both her and Sansa have gone through absolute hell.
Yeah, and they both deserve happiness in some capacity. I don't know for Sansa who, if it was like a marriage for her or not. If it was a marriage for Sansa, I don't know who it would be, personally, right now. I mean, there's always a billion options, but I could see Sansa being like the Wardeness of the North or the Lady of the North independently. Just like...
I think at this point, after all of the negative experiences she's had with male figures in this world, to put it lightly, I think she doesn't have any interest in trying to find a king or a lord to be with if she's going to have rule over the North. I think she's perfectly fine doing it by herself.
Oh yeah, she's going to be like, I don't need any of you. You are actually the worst, and there's no second place. This is mine. And you know what I would like to see is her and the little girl Mormont just rule the North together. Just like badass power team. Those two get stuff done. And I think the scene, speaking of her, and then the what's his name? Is it like Brandon Umber, the little boy? There's a really good scene with them where he was like talking to Sansa, Jon, and Daenerys, where he's like, my lord, my lady, and then he's like, my lady? He's like, I don't know what to call you guys, because there's 3 different kinds of leaders at the table. And then like the Mormont, the small girl, is like, we appointed you king, and Jon has the best response. He's like, I know, and you appointed me as your ruler to protect you. I made my own decision to try to protect you, and you kind of can't control me. He's like, you may have like appointed me, but I made my own choice to do this, which is the best for all of us. I'm sorry that you don't exactly trust this, but like, I, as your leader, am allowed to make my own independent decisions. And I thought that was a really good reply to that like criticism. And they're not happy about it, but they're also probably a little bit like, maybe he's not wrong. Like, maybe he's not wrong. Also, he just showed up with 2 dragons and like 10,000 people. And that's one of those things where Sansa has a point too, where she's like, okay, we have enough food for like 5,000 people, not another 10,000 people. So what are we going to do? And Jon's like, we're going to win. That's what we're going to do. Like, that's the only way we only have one choice, and it's winning. That there's not like a contingency plan of like, what if we don't? He's like, there's not a what if. And I think this episode in general was perfect for what it needed to be. And then we'll talk about the jump scare. Like in my opinion, the like coolest moment out of the episode, which is Tormund, Beric Dondarrion, and the remaining members of the Night's Watch. At
the triumphant return of Ed. Yeah,
of Ed, and they're at House Umber, and it's destroyed. And I think the funniest line is like, he has blue eyes. I've always had blue eyes, which is good. And so what happens?
Yeah, that was a great tension breaker. So yes, Tormund, Beric Dondarrion, they are still making their way back from the disaster that happened at the Wall, as the Army of the Dead basically just broke through the Wall with the help of a ice dragon now. They're still making their way. They're behind the Army of the Dead. They're pretty much, the Army of the Dead is between Winterfell and this small group of guys. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to find a way that they can get to Winterfell ahead of the White Walkers.
Yeah.
They find themselves at this place. They come across the little boy pretty much nailed to a wall with a familiar and yet still mysterious sort of spirally symbol around him made out of like human limbs.
Yeah.
And as they are kind of conversing. We see in the background behind Tormund as he's talking about something. The kid comes back to life as a newly
reanimated
white, reanimated white, and that was scary as shit when it happened.
Yeah,
I think it was a necessary sort of scare and a rise in tension to remind us all that, like, yeah, we're getting all these nice little reunions in Winterfell, but don't forget, some terrifying shit is on its way.
Yeah.
I think this was a good way of reminding the viewers of that.
Yeah, it really was, and I think a big thing with that scene, the spiral of like human limbs was the same that we saw like in the first episode. We saw with like the weirwood tree and the children of the forest with the spiraling circles, and we saw it in like the hieroglyphics in the Dragonstone. And so that they're gonna have to reveal what that means.
Yeah,
that's like
they have to.
The White Walkers and like the Children of the Forest, and I think Bran will reveal what that is. I think if I had a suspicion what that is, I think he's going to draw that symbol, or that symbol will be made in fire or something. Like that circle will be made, and Bran will be like, "He's here," and maybe it's the symbol that connects everything. Like like you know how Daenerys is like breaking the wheel because it's a circle. Maybe that's like a wheel.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if that same symbol showed up in the crypts of Winterfell.
Yeah, it's like somewhere in there where it's like everything is connected.
Right.
There's a fan theory that says that in the crypts of Bran the Builder built the wall, whose Bran is named after, maybe coincidence. And then Bran the Builder also built the crypts of Winterfell, and they're like enchanted. Which is why Sam has that line where he's like, I know I'm not supposed to be down here because it's only Starks who are supposed to be in the crypts. Or people who are like invited in. I think those crypts are kind of like where the Three-Eyed Raven Brennan Rivers was. I think there's some magic in there. And I have a feeling that maybe when that scene where Arya is running, where she's scared, we might see some dead Starks. Maybe we'll get like a Lady Stoneheart, which is Catelyn Stark's slit throat. That would be great if we get one of those kind of like nods to the books, where we're like, we didn't forget that this is a thing. We just wanted to implement it in a different way. But I think there's something. The crypts are such a big thing in the trailer, in the intro. Something's going to happen in there.
Yeah, the advertising and everything leading up to the season has been emphasizing the crypts heavily.
Yeah.
So something is going to happen down there. Something has to be down there. It can't just all be some sort of coincidence or, random advertising or angle for advertising. They've been leaning too heavily on it for it to not be anything.
Yeah, and they keep mentioning the crypts in every like episode leading up to this, and more and more and more. I think there's some magic thing that's going to happen, or maybe the final showdown with like the Night King will be down in the crypts. Something is going to happen in there, or maybe the final shot of all of Game of Thrones will be in there. I said on the last episode that I think the show will end. The final shot of all of Game of Thrones is going to end with another dragon egg. Or something. Or maybe like a dragon egg and it's going to rattle. And that's it. I think that'd be really cool. Like something small like that. Or maybe like someone opens their eyes and they're blue. Like just something like that. Like ice or fire. Like the cycle just repeats itself. Even if you destroy the cycle, it'll find a way. Like it's like the Jurassic Park, like life finds a way sort of thing. I think that's how this show is going to end.
Jeff Goldblum will be in the crypts.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum's just like in there, just like, oh, hey, you thought this was a normal show? I'm going to be in here and weird it all up. But so what is your prediction for next Sunday's episode?
I think next Sunday is going to start with maybe like a quarter to half of the episode, continuing with this kind of reunion deal, especially with, because they just left us hanging with Bran and Jaime. We're going to get something with that. We saw, if you were stuck around for the preview for next week, we saw that Jaime's going to be basically having a reunion with a lot of people in Winterfell, specifically the Starks, who are about to be like so up his ass that he's going to probably regret or think about like, why did I come here again? I think we're going to have about half of the episode focusing on that. And then I really think that it's going to start shit's going to start getting real. Like we're going to probably maybe like the last 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to start seeing like the Whites and White Walkers approaching Winterfell. Because I think next week is the last of the normal 60-ish minute episodes. And then we're getting into the extended episodes.
Yeah, because they said in interviews, like, they kind of not like let slip, because I know like the showrunners like very, very specifically tell them what they can and can't say. And I think one of the things is that they are allowed to say the length of the episodes, and they were like, I think the length for the third one was the longest fight scene ever committed to film. So the first one was the Battle of the Bastards, which took like 44 days to film. The one after that was the Battle of Helm's Deep from Lord of the Rings. I think it took 49 days to film. This battle from Game of Thrones took 60 days or something of all night shoots. And they were all saying like how people got sick on set. It was like a disaster, not like a disaster in a bad way, like a production disaster, but it was just one of those things on set where it's like, you can't ask humans to be like nocturnal for that long without like people going insane. So I'm interested in seeing what we get. And yeah, I think next week is the last standard 60 to 60. I think next week is like 65. But I think the last few episodes, aren't they like an hour and a half?
Yeah, 70 to 80 minutes each.
Thank Christ. But yeah, so I think next week, I think we'll end like kind of like how the Battle of Helm's Deep starts, where it's like, and so it begins. And then we get cut off literally on like the first arrow firing sort of thing.
That, or we see the army approaching on one side. We see like the army of the living kind of like prepared, like in their lines, or at the walls of Winterfell prepared. Last thing we see, last thing we hear, the roar of the dead ice dragon.
Yeah, or the roar of the dead ice dragon, and then we see the normal dragons, and then it stops. And then we're all going to be like, are you kidding me? It's going to be an ending like that, where like it
has to be.
Oh yeah, like this week we're all like, oh damn, we have to wait another week. Next week, everyone's going to be so frustrated and so blue balls to get it, because it... Okay. But that's how next week will be. And then I think after... They said in the Dan and Dave, and I think Kit Harington and maybe Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who plays Jaime, have said that everything in the trailers is from episodes 1, 2, and 3. We haven't seen anything past episode 3, which is official. We have not seen one shot from after episode 3. So that's going to be very, very, very interesting, because they don't do trailers for the show after it starts airing until they do the next time on Game of Thrones. So yeah.
I'm also curious to see if next episode, how much or who else is going to get in on Jon's lineage. Whether he's going to tell anybody, or if he's going to keep it to himself with the reasoning of like, okay, we have bigger things to worry about that's literally on its way to us right now. Maybe I should keep this to myself in order to not like completely destroy any unity that we've built up among all of this gigantic army that we need to live.
You might be right about that. I didn't even think about that. Maybe, yeah, that kind of reveal that if people live, they'll learn about it after the battle's over. It's one of those, like, a few people know, and it's like, don't focus on that now, focus on it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if Jon revealed that to Dany, that would be an absolute stupid, like...
Oh, yeah.
Thing that would interrupt battle strategies, preparing for a literal war. Like, that's the last thing you want to do when people are trying to prepare for an army of dead things walking towards you.
Yeah, you're right. It is literally the last thing that you want is horrible tension. Like, the worst kind of tension you can imagine is, wait, you're who? Kind of thing.
Like, wait, I'm not the rightful heir to the throne?
Yeah.
Thinking Danny, like, I should just ride the fuck away.
Yeah, I think that definitely will be a case of John's like, or Sam says something and John's gonna be like, do not tell anybody. Like, we have to win this first. And maybe, personally, I don't think Daenerys is gonna make it through to episode 6. I don't.
I think she will.
Okay.
I have her as living. I actually have Jon as dying.
Yes, me too. I have Jon as dying, but since he died before, I have him dying in such a way that he gets obliterated. Like, there's no way of bringing him back. Like, he gets shattered by the Night King kind of thing. Like, he gets poofed. Like, Thanos poofed away. Or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot... There's no justifiable way of there even being a body left.
Right. I think it's going to be... I think he's going to die, but I also think he will kill the Night King.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's going to bring down the Night King, but he will like succumb to battle wounds or something like that.
Yeah,
and he's going to repeat like what he said before the Battle of the Bastards. Like, if I go down, like, do not bring me back.
Yeah, I think it will be something like that. Like, and I think Melisandre will be there. We haven't seen her; she's not dead, and she said to Davos, "Your part's not over. My part's not over, but we're both dying." And she said that at Dragonstone. She's like, we're both not making it through this, but we still have a part to play, which is pretty ominous. And she's going to be back, and I think she's going to die really early in that battle, or somehow be eliminated in some way. So you can't bring people back. And I think Beric Dondarrion is also going to get killed. So you can't. There's no way to bring people back. Like, that whole plot device will be done.
I hope so.
I think the writers have thought that one through. They're like, wait a second. There's people who can bring people back from the dead. We have to get rid of them.
Yeah, but I hope that Davos lives. I have him living, and I like him. He's not really a warrior of any kind. Like, he has prepared to fight. Like, when him and the kind of loyal knights Men of the Night's Watch, like, after Jon dies, he was like prepared to fight the guys that were coming in for Jon's body. But we haven't really seen him like in a battle or anything like that. So I hope he kind of stays away from the battle for his own safety. But, I mean, they're going to need everybody they can get to swing a sword.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm convinced that Davos will get his moment. And the writers have said there's like, I think, what is it? It's like 3 or 4 big holy shit moments in Game of Thrones. And one of them was Shireen dying. One of them was the Hodor thing. And then the other one was, I think, Jon coming back from the dead. There's like, we've already gotten 3 of the 5 or whatever. There's 2 more.
And we have 2 to go through just in this season alone?
Yeah, so like that's what the writers have said. There's like these, oh my god, what just happened moments. Maybe one of them was Ned Stark dying. There's 2 more to go.
I would think that maybe the Red Wedding would be one too.
I think maybe the Red Wedding is one. Like, let's say, for instance, there's 5 or 10 moments. We have 8 of them down. There are 2 left.
Okay.
I think one of them will be the end, or near the very end, the last episode, and one of them will be in this battle. 3 and 6, episodes 3 and 6 will have oh my god moments. Like, reevaluating the show moments. Who do you have sitting on the Iron Throne at the end? I have mine.
I have Dany sitting on the throne. I think it's going to be more conventional and more safe than what we think. Because a lot of people are like, oh, anybody can die. Anyone's going to go at one time. I think they've built up Dany so much that at this point, I think that she's just, it's inevitable that she's going to sit on the throne. And if Jon doesn't die, if they're both still alive, they're going to hold like equal footing on the throne. It's going to be the Iron Love seat.
Yeah, okay. I could see that. I personally think Samwell Tarly sitting on the throne. I have him as my pick. He's a sleeper pick.
That's a dark horse pick.
He is a dark horse pick. There have been crazier things that have happened. I think Samuel Tarly's going to sit on the throne. Or because he's like, remember when the Maester last season was said something? He's like, I think it's going to be an end like in Lord of the Rings where it's like writing the end of the story. And Sam is the last person to sit on the throne being like, now this is a Song of Ice and Fire. The end. Where he recounts everything that's ever happened. That's why he's writing all the time. He's writing everything.
Could be.
My thought.
Yeah. I actually have, when I was going through my death pool, I had a lot of people living that I think many people would probably have going down in the Battle of Winterfell. I have Jaime living through the end of this season.
I want Jaime to live.
I think Jaime's going to live. I think Tyrion's going to win. Or live, excuse me. Lord Varys, I think he's going to live. He really doesn't have any reason to die. Gendry, Podrick Payne, I think they're both going to live. Because I really do think Arya and Gendry are going to be like a thing up to the end of it.
I agree with that. I 100% agree with that.
And I have Bronn. I have Bronn sticking it through.
You know what? I could see that as well. I could definitely, if like someone told me Bronn makes it all the way through, I wouldn't even be upset. I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like I
think Bronn's finally going to get his castle. He's going to get his woman that was promised, and he's going to get his bag of gold. He's like, that's kind of been like the running joke for Bronn. Like he keeps getting promised these things from the Lannisters, and they keep getting like either not given to him or taken away. I think he's going to sit happily in a castle with his whatever. Promised wife in gold.
Oh yeah, I
hope so. I love Bronn. I want him to stick it through.
Oh, me too. If Bronn makes it through, I'm gonna be so happy because I'm like, you know what? He honestly is one of those characters that truly does. I'm like, you've redeemed yourself, especially if he doesn't kill anyone in this final episode or final episodes. If he's like, man, I've learned the error of my ways. He deserves a win. He deserves to be like, you get your castle, and it's like, yeah, Bronn. But yeah, so, any other thoughts before our next talk?
I think that's it. They kind of alluded to, real quick, they alluded to Cersei possibly being pregnant.
They did.
Do we think she is? And does it matter?
Do I think she's pregnant? Yes. Does it matter? Not at all. Because I don't think that baby's coming out. I think that baby is going to be dead. Now, that's a very morbid thing to say. That baby, knowing Cersei and knowing her luck and knowing Game of Thrones, that baby's going to be a stillborn. Or that baby's going to get converted into being a little White Walker baby. It's going to get...
And if she is pregnant, I don't think there's enough time between... Well, unless they do some sort of wild time jump after the Battle of Winterfell, so many months after, here's the fallout that we still have to deal with. I don't think there's going to be enough time for her to go through a full pregnancy. Because I think Cersei's going to die. It's going to be at the hands of Jaime, I think. Mm-hmm. Whether he realizes after he kills her that she was pregnant or not, if she is pregnant, who knows? So... But they heavily alluded to her being pregnant when Euron kind of rubs her belly, like, I'm going to put a prince in you. And she kind of looks like, you're not the first one. You're too late, whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that. I genuinely do agree with that. And yeah, so there's a lot that's going to happen. And these episodes are going to be jam-packed. They are literally, there's no shot that is not worth something. There's other episodes that I wouldn't say have filler, but these ones are all boom, boom, boom. Every single moment is a useful moment.
Right.
And yeah, so anything else?
I think that's really it. I think we covered what we needed to cover.
Perfect. And yeah, I'm signing off. This is Russell. This is the podcast. We have a website. We have all that fun stuff. It's always linked below. Contact us. Do all that. If you have any fun Game of Thrones predictions, post them. We have Instagram, all that other business. Ben, sign us off.
As always, thank you guys for tuning in this week. We hope to catch you next week. For any new listeners, welcome to the pod. And we hope that you guys keep with us next week all throughout these remaining Game of Thrones episodes. This has been See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I am Ben. We'll catch you next time.